Coming to you live from the palatial studios of PBJ Productions. Welcome to Patrick and BJ Talk Real Estate, where we talk about life, the universe, and everything as it relates to real estate. Hey everybody, it's BJ.
And Patrick.
And we're back talking all things real estate. And you know what, Patrick?
Yes.
I've said this before.
Uh-oh.
The government is going to fix all of our problems.
Cause?
Just because.
No. I mean, like, they're going to cause more problems, right?
Yeah.
But it is.
I don't know. Can we say Big Brother? Do we get blocked? Do we get blocked if we say Big Brother?
1984?
Yeah.
Right?
Right.
What's that? They have like a funny way of saying things. It's like, I think it was called like Newspeak. And belly.
Was it
belly feel or something like that? It's like feel good words. Like,
yeah.
I don't want to go down this rabbit hole, actually.
You know, it's interesting though. I read 1984 when I was in middle school, so it was like about grade 8. I think that was the reading of the year.
Ooh, that's pretty in deep for me, or pretty deep for grade 8. I think. Like,
yeah,
I might have read like Animal Farm at that point.
I think we read Animal Farm maybe the year before, or no, maybe I read it myself after.
Right. But what are we going to talk about today?
Well, we are talking about the government's proposed solution, or part of the solution to the rental crisis that's happening right now.
Right.
And in BC, the resolution to that the part of the resolution that the government thinks is going to help is to limit, or actually absolve, the ability of people to have short-term rentals in their, well, not necessarily in their homes, but if they have a suite.
Right, but it's going to be affecting the condos that have been used as
That's right.
Like an Airbnb, that kind of thing.
Yeah, or if you have a suite that you're Airbnb-ing, that's an issue. I think the difference would be if you have a room, that's different.
Right, they're specifying that now. That a room might be okay, but not a full suite, something like that.
Yeah, and I think there's got to be, we're still waiting for clarification on definitions and what things look like.
And if we know the BC government, they'll make the rules first and then fix things later, right? When it comes to the paperwork and process and all of that.
Yeah.
But that's part and parcel of government rule changes, policy changes.
Sure. And you know what? We say that based on experience. Just for those of you that are watching.
Yeah, I'm not just saying that.
We're not just saying that. We went through this with all the new rollout of all the new policies in 2018.
I don't remember.
That's when dual agency went away.
Something like that.
So, anyway, on a side note, thank you for joining us today. If you haven't, please take a minute and subscribe. We're giving you great content, and we're putting out multiple times a week now. So we want to make sure that you stay up to date on everything. So let's get on with it.
You know what? So I saw a news segment on CTV News Vancouver.
Okay, yeah.
And the headline was, owners of short-term rentals are scrambling to get on the market.
Okay.
So what, that should indicate like, oh, it's going to flood the market with like maybe hundreds of maybe micro condos,
sure,
or condos that have been used as Airbnb, illegally. But I don't see a huge flood. Yes, there's more micro condos. I'm going to take Victoria's market as an example. And yeah, I think we've seen like 50 micro condos come onto the market. and the price range of these are sort of varying as well, because they offer less than like a long-term condo size.
Yeah.
Typically.
I think we saw, was there not one in the Janyan that sold, and it was about 100,000 less than the equivalent condo with parking, with appropriate space, et cetera, et cetera. Does that sound right?
Right. So it didn't have parking. It was 300 square feet. It was listed in September for $475,000 before the rule changed that Airbnb was going to be banned. Thank you very much, David Eby of our BC government. But hey, that's the way it is. And then they ended up reducing the price eventually somewhere around like $359,000. I'm probably wrong by $10,000. I'm doing this all by memory. And it sold for $300,000.
Okay. And
so it didn't have a $175,000 drop. It was probably maybe a more optimistic pricing at the beginning, and maybe there wasn't a rush to sell this thing, but they already had They were already decided to sell this property before this happened, right?
Right.
So like it's kind of a funny cherry picking example, which has made the headlines. So
Yeah.
I think this. I don't think anything is flooding the market, based on the announcement came out back in November.
Yeah.
It's just in the middle of January right now. I bet you these places are pre-booked still for however many months.
Yeah.
I don't think you can just like, hey, look, I've got customers for the next X. This is still, the rules don't really come into May. Enforcement issues, even though the rules can be enforced now and the penalties have gone up immediately since the announcement,
Right.
people still have obligations to their customers. And I don't know,
Yeah.
like, how much enforcement is there with the city bylaw officers?
Yeah.
Or the strata councils?
Sure.
Are they even touching this one?
I
Or
don't-
just
I-
waiting till May?
Yeah, I got to think that from a strata council point of view, you don't want to have anything to do with it.
Legally?
Well, and just, the fact that so now you're going to start getting pushback from somebody that owns your building or owns a unit in your building. And what if they're going to go and then get their crew together and et cetera, et cetera, et cetera.
Okay,
So,
I'll touch on this one as I sat on the strata council. This is not a bragging thing. This is like the most ungrateful job. Like it's a volunteer position, and
Yeah.
you're in part managing a building with other people.
Yeah, and it's...
And we're all amateurs. None
right.
of us are professionals.
yeah.
Like to chase down everything all the time would be extremely time consuming.
Sure.
Like as long as it's not causing anybody too many headaches, like it probably runs like the city on a complaint basis.
Yeah. Yeah.
Whoever's the noisiest gets the attention, right?
Yeah.
So if there was several, I'm not even a non-conforming building that allowed Airbnb short-term rentals.
Yeah.
One that doesn't allow it at all. It was completely residential. And like, oh, if somebody's doing it and they're getting away with it, but it's not really bothering anybody and nobody's really complaining.
Right.
Like, why would they go out of their way to like stop somebody?
Right.
Unless they really have a chip on their shoulder and they're like the strata police, right?
Yeah.
Like,
There, and
there's-
realistically, to do that, you have to be retired.
you have to, it's time consuming,
Because it's very
right?
time consuming, right? So, okay, so let's talk about where's this going to end up in May. And the great thing is we don't know because we don't know exactly what the rules look like yet. We haven't gotten all the details on it, but the idea is obviously short-term rentals are, is it 60 days?
The government has expanded the rule to 60 days.
60 days, yeah. So short-term rentals are defined as anything under 60 days
Or
now.
something like that,
Yeah.
anyways.
So, and the municipality size is
Oh, I do.
10,000 plus?
4, sorry?
Yeah, or is it for,
Oh, the population.
yeah.
It was 5,000 and within 10 kilometers of anything greater than that.
Okay.
There would be exceptions. So
Yeah.
if it was a community of 5,000
Yeah.
or less,
Right.
or within 10 kilometers of a
Okay,
10,000 population or more.
got it. So,
I wasn't even thinking
What-
about those things anymore. Anyways.
so I guess the thing we want to talk about is do we think this is actually going to do something for the intent is the rental market and probably more the rental market, and they're thinking that there's some spillover of condos being put on the market that wouldn't otherwise be put on the market.
I think there's going to be an increased amount of inventory. Not everybody listed. Like there was probably a knee-jerk reaction.
Yeah.
We'll probably put this in like 30%. 30% of the owners, investors, probably knee-jerk reaction.
Sure.
You know what? Let's just let's get rid of this. Let's get out of here.
Yeah.
Let's move on to something else.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
And I think it's probably just down to personality types. And then with the wait and see crowd,
Yeah.
let's wait until May and let's see how it works out, and then we'll sell. And then there's probably the stubborn crowd that won't change until, maybe they get a fine. Maybe like that whole business sort of disappears for them, and they'll be the last ones to leave.
Sure.
So I don't think there's going to be a flood owners scramble to get their house or
Yeah,
their
right.
Airbnb units on the market. I don't think that's the case.
Yeah.
I think it's just a like psychology of people. There's just different personality types.
Sure.
So we won't
So-
see a flood,
Yeah, and I think
but
that,
we will see increased
yeah.
inventory.
So that was my thought is we may see some properties put on the market, and we may see some properties that are available for long-term rent. But in some cases, it's not going to make sense for them to rent that property long-term.
Ooh, tell me why.
From a numbers point of view, right? Because you're renting it long-term for less than you'd be making in a short-term rental, and you have figured out that income stream as part of what you need for something, whether it's that property or the house with the suite, whatever it is. So suddenly now you're going to be under pressure financially, and it makes more sense to just sell that condo.
Right, you might break even. You're going to lose some equity if you decided to hold on to the property. I'm talking very general. And initially, you might have paid a premium for that property. And if it was a few years ago, it might work now for long-term rents because rents have gone up. We did a video on rents haven't been this high for like
30 years.
30 years,
30
or the
years.
increase or whatever.
Yeah.
Okay, so. But there's more numbers to this than you might think. So if you were operating an Airbnb, please, this is like accounting. Please talk to your tax accountant for this. I'm not giving tax advice. I'm giving like a warning. Hey, check into this if you're deciding this way.
Right.
If you are an owner of an Airbnb short-term rental property as an investment, and you were going to switch it over to a long-term rental, there are tax implications on that.
Oh, okay. That's one I didn't know. That's interesting.
So it's changing the use of the property from a commercial property to a residential property, and it triggers GST in BC.
Sweet.
So if you evaluate, I don't care, that place sold for 300,000. At least the math is easy now, right? 300,000, GST is 5%.
Yeah.
You're gonna have a $15,000 tax bill if you decided to rent it out long term. So there's still more you have to make up for, like even if you convert to long term. Now, of course, if you already occupied the property or you already had it as long term rental, this won't apply.
Right. Sure.
So I'm not the tax accountant. Go talk to a tax accountant for that kind of advice, not me.
Yeah. But I do think.
But look into it.
Yeah.
That's the warning.
So,
right?
so my take on it is I think there's going to be some stuff available for rent. I think there's going to be some stuff available for sale. I don't think it's going to solve the problem. Maybe and in the immediate here and now, I don't think it's going to do a whole lot.
Okay, so I know I said this before. Real estate. If you're investing in anything, you're buying stocks. You give money to somebody like in a Ponzi scheme. Like you might lose money. It doesn't mean like you're going to always make money on every investment decision that you ever made. And I feel for people when they do lose money, especially if they can't afford to lose. Like you don't gamble with money that
Sure.
you can't afford to lose kind of
Sure.
thing, right? You don't go to Vegas and you line of credit your house or something like that. I don't know if anybody does that, but
I'm sure.
I'm using an extreme
that's an
example,
extreme
right?
example, but I would
I
go so far as to say that's probably happened.
It's probably happened, right? So okay, so maybe the short-term rental investment doesn't make money anymore, and I hope those people can recover that and take their money somewhere else, right?
Yeah. Maybe, or on the flip side of that, maybe it just breaks even now. It used to make money, now it breaks even. In that context, maybe you decide, if that's you, that you're just going to hold on and let the property appreciate and let the mortgage get paid down by the renters.
Yeah, and in markets like Victoria, Vancouver, Lower Mainland, over time, like you're deemed to see some appreciation based on historical numbers. That's kind of the path here, right?
Yeah.
So, but I think the great news is, like our kids are getting older, and it's like if they can buy real estate, I want to get them on the property ladder as soon as possible.
Right.
Even we go into the conversations like, even if you don't move into it.
Yep.
I don't care. Buy that little micro condo unit, something, and rent it out. Like 300,000. Where else can you get a condo for 300,000? Yes, there are some that are competitive in that price range, but get in somewhere on that property ladder. Even if you don't move into it, rent it out You know, you get experience being a landlord, getting to know the rules.
Yeah.
As a young person, just getting more life experience.
Sure.
And you have your foot in the door.
Yeah, and the other part of it is you could end up in that situation as a 20-year-old, let's say, and just decide to let your tenants keep paying down your mortgage, and at, say, 40, now it's paid for.
Yeah.
And you're looking at, $400,000 or $500,000 cash in your jeans if you want to liquidate it.
Right. So, like, even if you had put inflation against it, and if you had a little bit of turnover with tenants in those last 20 years, whatever,
Yeah.
your rent keeps going up
Yep.
over time as well, or at least matches whatever the market is, right?
Yep.
So you're sort of protecting your money against inflation, and in a desirable place like Victoria or Vancouver, and there's many more. The chances are the home will continue to appreciate over time.
Yep.
Maybe not at the same rate. Maybe it won't double in 10 years. Maybe it'll only go halfway up, or maybe it's flat for the next 10 years.
Sure.
Like, we don't know, but people keep coming here. We have beautiful weather. You know, we have a video on like pros and cons of living in Victoria.
And we had snow.
And we had snow for
We had a snow day.
for one and a half days.
Yeah, one day we had a snow day, and then one day I picked up my daughter from school at noon because they recommended coming to pick up your children if you could before the end of the day.
But they didn't close the school.
No.
It's kind of weird.
Yeah, and then the next day my daughter got a snow day because we were snowed in our driveway.
So I think, yes, Victoria, there's desirable places, and if you choose, we don't harp on location, but it is all about location.
Sure.
When you talk about like a macro area, all the way down to like streets and corners and which way is it facing,
Yep.
on the beach, whatever.
Yep.
It's really important to pay attention to those things, and people recognize that, and those places are desirable, and they're more resilient to price
Market
changes,
fluctuations,
fluctuations. Thank
Yeah,
you.
yeah.
So
Yeah.
I hope that's an encouraging word for anybody that's thinking like, oh yeah, there might be fears of like, how am I ever going to buy a house, or how are our kids ever going to buy a house? There's always going to be opportunities.
100%.
It might not be in the location that you want, but I think getting your foot in the door, and still keeping in mind location and
Yeah.
other factors for value, is really important.
Yeah, for sure. All right, well, we kind of went the circuitous route there to get to here, where we started off wanting to talk about the whole Airbnb thing, which we've talked about a little bit. I think, like I said, we're going to see more details as it comes up, and when it does, we're going to talk about it. But that's what we know thus far, and the expectation, I think, is we're going to see some things move, but I don't think it's going to have an immediate effect on what's on the market. And the other part of it, super important as far as, getting on the property ladder. And if you want some information about that or want to talk to us about that, feel free to reach out to us. Our contact info is in the description. And again, if you haven't, please take a minute and subscribe, and make sure that you're getting all of the videos. If there's something that you think we should talk about, let us know in the comments. Or if you have some thoughts about Airbnb, maybe you think it's a great idea for the government to do away with the Airbnb option in BC.
I read the comments. Yeah. Some people are like, oh yeah, ban them all.
Right? So maybe you have, and we're fine with a different opinion. Obviously, we expect, and we personally will discuss anything with some level of respect and courtesy, and expect the same from anybody else in the comments. But you don't have to agree with us. And I think that's one of the great things about living in a free society. We all get to have an opinion.
Yeah, and we take it from there, right?
Yeah. So, all right. See you next time.
Take care. Bye.